My hands are shaking so violently that I cannot even hold the steering wheel steady. The orange check engine light on the dashboard is flickering, mocking me, but I am too terrified to turn the car off because I am afraid it will not start again. I am sitting in the driver's seat of a Range Rover that I leased 6 months ago to impress people I do not know. On my lap, there are 2 pieces of paper that define my entire existence right now. The first piece of paper is a printout of my analytics from yesterday. It says 1 million views. It is highlighted in green. Beside it, glowing on my phone screen, is a comment from a girl named Sarah. She wrote, "Chloe, your life is literally my dream. I would die to be you." I wish I could tell Sarah the truth. I wish I could scream it, because the second piece of paper on my lap is taped to the passenger seat. It is a bright orange legal notice I ripped off my apartment door 10 minutes ago. It says 3-day notice to pay rent or quit. It says in bold black letters that I am hereby required to pay the sum of $4,200 or deliver up possession of the premises to the landlord. I have exactly $314 in my bank account. I am hyperventilating. The air feels thin. I am wearing a $1,200 jacket that I have not paid for, sitting in a $90,000 car that is 2 months behind on payments, and I am about to lose the roof over my head. The world thinks I am a queen. My followers think I am rich. But the truth is, I am drowning. I am 26 years old. I am $80,000 in debt. I am famous. I am verified. And come Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock, I am technically homeless.
Welcome back to the show, where we peel back the layers of financial deception to reveal the raw and often painful truth underneath. What you just heard in that opening segment is the sound of a human soul colliding with a mathematical reality. It is a sound that is becoming increasingly common in the modern world, but it is a sound that is almost never broadcast. We live in an era that is defined by the image. We are surrounded by a constant 4,000 pixel stream of perfection. We wake up and we scroll through images of vacations. We did not take meals we did not eat, and bodies we do not possess. We see the luxury handbags, the first-class tickets, and the penthouse views. And our brains are wired to make a very dangerous assumption. We assume that the picture is proof of the prosperity. We assume that because someone looks like a millionaire on a 6-inch screen, they must have $1 million in the bank. But that assumption is the foundation of the greatest financial bubble of our generation. We call it the creator economy, but for many young people it has become the debtor economy. The young woman you heard hyperventilating in her car is named Chloe, to her 200,000 followers. She is an icon of success. She is a fashion and lifestyle influencer who seems to have unlocked the cheat code to existence. She travels to the most exclusive destinations. She wears the latest seasonal collections from Paris and Milan. She dines at restaurants where the waiting list is 3 months long. If you looked at her feed right now, you would see a life that looks like a fairy tale. But if you looked at her bank statement, you would see a horror story. Chloe is 26 years old. She is bright, she is talented, and she is hardworking. But she is currently drowning in $80,000 of high-interest consumer debt. She has a negative net worth of $95,000. And as we speak, she is 3 days away from being physically removed from her apartment because she cannot pay the rent. This is not a story about a bad person. This is not a story about someone who is lazy or foolish. This is a story about a trap that is so sophisticated and so seductive that it has ensnared millions of people just like her. It is the trap of lifestyle inflation fueled by the desperate need for digital validation. In the United States of America today, 45% of full-time social media influencers earn an annual income that is below the federal poverty line. Yet, in order to maintain their relevance and their audience growth, they feel compelled to spend money as if they are in the top 1% of earners. They are buying props for a play that never ends. They are renting a lifestyle that they can never own. They are trading their actual financial future for a digital currency that has no exchange rate in the real world. You cannot pay your landlord with likes. You cannot pay your credit card interest with comments. And you certainly cannot retire on the feeling of being envied by strangers. Today, we are going to dissect this phenomenon with brutal honesty. We are going to look at the mechanics of how a smart young woman can dig a hole so deep that she can no longer see the sunlight. We are going to talk about the psychological warfare of the algorithm, which punishes you with irrelevance the moment you stop spending money. We are going to talk about the predatory lending industry that lines up to hand cash to people like Chloe, knowing full well that they will be paying 25% interest for the rest of their lives. And most importantly, we are going to try to find a way out. Because right now, Chloe is standing on a precipice. She is holding on to her identity as a rich girl with a death grip. But that identity is the heavy stone that is dragging her to the bottom of the ocean. She believes that if she stops spending, she ceases to exist. She believes that her value as a human being is tied to the brand on her purse and the location tag on her photos. Our job today is to break that belief before it breaks her. We need to perform a radical intervention. We need to separate the person from the persona. We need to look at the cold, hard data, because numbers possess a quality that Instagram filters do not. Numbers possess the quality of truth. They do not care about your aesthetic. They do not care about your engagement rate. They only care about what comes in and what goes out. And right now, Chloe is bleeding out. She is hemorrhaging money at a rate that is unsustainable, and the crash is not coming in a year or a month. The crash is coming on Tuesday, so I want you to listen closely. If you have ever bought something you could not afford just to show it off, this episode is for you. If you have ever felt that sinking feeling in your stomach when you check your banking app, this episode is for you. And if you are currently watching your own life spiral out of control while pretending that everything is fine, this episode is definitely for you. We are going to open the books. We are going to stare directly at the monster. And we are going to see if we can save Chloe from the character she created. Let us begin by looking at the financial vitals. I have a stack of paper in front of me that is about 2 inches thick. It is heavy. It smells like printer toner and anxiety. These are the statements that Chloe brought into the studio today. And I want to be very clear about what we are looking at. This is not just a list of transactions. This is a forensic record of a financial suicide in progress. When I look at these numbers, I do not see a bad person. I see a person who is functionally illiterate when it comes to the language of money. And because she cannot read the language, she does not realize that the story she is writing ends in a tragedy. Let us start with the income, because that is the number everyone focuses on. That is the headline number. Chloe, you stated that you earn an average of $10,000 per month. To the average American listener, that sounds like a victory. That is $120,000 a year. That is a six-figure salary. It sounds like safety. It sounds like success. But there is a massive, dangerous asterisk next to that number. You are not an employee, Chloe. You are a 1099 independent contractor. And that means when a brand wires you $5,000 for a sponsorship, that money is not yours. The government owns a piece of it, specifically the self-employment tax, the federal income tax, and the state of California income tax. You are supposed to take 30% of every single check and put it into a separate savings account that you never touch. But I am looking at your savings account right now. It has $0 in it. You have not paid estimated taxes in 2 years. Based on my rough calculation, you currently owe the Internal Revenue Service approximately $35,000 in back taxes and penalties. That is debt number one. It is invisible on your credit report. But it is the most dangerous debt you have, because the IRS has the power to freeze your bank accounts and garnish your wages without a court order. They are the only creditor who can put you in prison if they prove intent to evade. So, in reality, your $10,000 monthly income is actually $7,000. But you have been living like it is 10. You have been spending the government's money on handbags. Now, let us move to the visible damage. The credit cards. I see 4 active accounts here. The first one is the American Express Platinum. This is the card you flash in your videos. It is heavy metal. It makes a satisfying clunk when you drop it on the table at dinner. It signals status. But right now, this status symbol has a balance of $18,000. You are paying the minimum payment, but you are still charging new expenses to it. That is like trying to bail out a sinking boat with a teaspoon while someone else is drilling holes in the hull. Next, we have the Chase Sapphire Reserve. Another premium travel card. Balance is $22,000. And then, we have the Dark Secrets. The cards you do not show on Instagram. 2 subprime credit cards from banks that specialize in predatory lending. These are the cards people get when their credit score starts to crack. High fees, terrible terms, and zero prestige. Between these 2 cards, you have another $40,000 in debt. that brings your total unsecured credit card debt to $80,000. Now, I want you to look at this number I have circled in red ink. It says 24.99%. That is your average annual percentage rate. Do you understand what that number means? It means that every single year, 1/4 of your financial life is being eaten alive by interest. If you stop spending money today, if you never bought another coffee or another pair of shoes, and you only made the minimum payments, it would take you more than 25 years to pay off this balance. You would pay over $100,000 in interest alone. You would be 51 years old before you were free. That is not a loan, Chloe. That is indentured servitude. You are working for the banks. You wake up, you film content, you stress about engagement, and you send the money to Visa and MasterCard. You are their employee, but you do not get health insurance and you do not get time off. Now let us look at the burn rate. This is the speed at which you are setting your life on fire. Your rent is $3,800 a month for a studio apartment. I know it is in West Hollywood. I know it has a nice lobby. I know the light is good for selfies. But spending nearly 40% of your gross income on rent is mathematical insanity. A healthy ratio is 25% of your net income. You are paying for a zip code you cannot afford to impress neighbors who do not know your name. Then we have the minimum payments on your debt. Just to keep the creditors from calling you, just to keep the wolves at the door, you have to pay $2,400 every single month. That money does not reduce your debt. It just services the interest. It is rent on your past mistakes. So let us do the math together. $3,800 for rent, $2,400 for debt service. That is $6,200 gone before you even wake up on the first of the month. Now add your living expenses. You mentioned that you spend about $1,500 a month on Uber Eats, dining out for content, and ride shares because you are too afraid to drive your car with the check engine light on. That brings your fixed monthly survival cost to $7,700. Do you remember what your real after-tax income should be? It is $7,000. You are mathematically insolvent. You are bleeding out $700 a month in the best case scenario. But you do not have the best case scenario. You have a volatile income. Some months you might make $15,000, but other months you might make $0. And when you make $0, the bills do not stop. The rent does not pause. The interest does not sleep. This is why you are hyperventilating in your car. Your body knows what your brain is refusing to accept. You are not a wealthy influencer. You are a person standing on a trap door with a noose around your neck, and the rope is made of 25% interest. You are surviving on luck and new debt. But you have run out of credit limits. You have run out of new cards to apply for. The music has stopped, Chloe, and there are no chairs left. So I have to ask you a question, and I need you to answer it with absolute honesty, stripping away the filter and the facade. When you look at these numbers, when you see that you are spending money you do not have to maintain an image that is not real, how do you justify waking up tomorrow and doing the exact same thing? How are you surviving this level of pressure without collapsing?
You ask me how I am surviving without collapsing, and the honest answer is that I am not surviving. I am disassociating. I have split my life into two completely separate realities, and I only allow myself to live in the one that exists inside the 6-inch screen of my iPhone. If you were to walk into my apartment building in West Hollywood right now, you would see a beautiful Art Deco lobby. You would see the polished brass mailboxes and the velvet entryway that smells like sandalwood and money. It is the kind of building where people wear sunglasses indoors and walk purebred greyhounds. You would take the elevator to the 4th floor, walk down the hallway, and stand in front of Unit 4B. If you opened Instagram, you would think you know exactly what is behind that door. You have seen it 1,000 times in my stories. You know, the aesthetic, you know, the beige linen sofa that catches the golden hour light perfectly. You know, the Italian marble kitchen island where I film my matcha latte tutorials. You know, the walk-in closet that looks like a boutique in Soho, filled with color-coded blazers and designer heels. You think you know my home. But if you actually turned the key and walked inside, you would think you had broken into a vacant unit that was being used for storage. The reality of my living situation is so stark, so empty, and so cold that it feels like a psychological experiment. Let me give you the tour of the real Unit 4B. The first thing you would notice is the echo. There is no sound absorption because there is no furniture. That beige linen sofa that everyone loves, I sold it on Facebook Marketplace 3 months ago. I remember the day vividly. It was a Tuesday, and my American Express payment was due at midnight. I needed $600 to meet the minimum payment. I listed the couch for $800. A guy named Dave came with a truck. He offered me $500 cash. I stood there, shaking, terrified that the payment would bounce, and I took it. I watched a stranger carry my comfort out the door, and the moment he left, I opened my banking app and sent every single dollar to American Express. It did not even lower the principal balance. It just bought me 30 more days of silence from the debt collectors. So now I sleep on a yoga mat in the corner of the living room. It is a purple Lululemon mat that is 5 millimeters thick. I use a throw blanket from Target as my bedding. I wake up every morning with a stiffness in my lower back that never goes away. And I have to roll up my bed and hide it in the closet so I can film my morning routine video on the bare floor. The floor is cold laminate that looks like wood, but it is peeling near the baseboards. In my videos, I crop that part out. And that beautiful Italian marble kitchen island, that is the biggest lie of all. It is a cheap scratch laminate counter that came with the apartment in 1995. I spent $12 on a roll of contact paper that looks like Carrara marble. I spent 4 hours smoothing it out with a credit card. Ironically, a maxed out credit card to make sure there were no air bubbles. When I film my coffee videos, I have to be very careful not to put hot mugs directly on the surface, or the plastic will melt and reveal the ugly brown laminate underneath. It is a $12 sticker covering up a rot. Just like my life. My refrigerator is another prop. In my What I Eat in a Day videos, I show perfectly organized containers of organic berries, alkaline water, and grass-fed meal prep. But if you open my fridge right now, the light would flicker on to reveal 3 things. A pitcher of filtered water, a bottle of oat milk that expired 2 days ago, and a bottle of hot sauce. That is it. I do not buy groceries because I cannot afford them. I eat instant ramen noodles that I buy in bulk from Amazon using my last remaining credit line. I eat them standing up over the sink so I do not have to wash a bowl. But on Sundays, I go to Erewhon, the most expensive grocery store in Los Angeles. I buy one $20 smoothie and a box of $18 sushi. I take 50 photos of it. I film it from every angle, and then I eat it slowly, savoring every single bite, because that is the only real meal I will have all week. The rest of the time, I am starving in a room that smells like dust and despair. The only thing in my apartment that has any value is my filming equipment. I have a professional ring light that costs $450. It stands in the center of the empty room like a shrine. It costs more than my mattress because I do not have a mattress. It costs more than my car insurance. It is the sun of my solar system. When I turn that light on, the empty room disappears. The peeling floorboards disappear. The hunger disappears. For 15 seconds while the camera is rolling. I am Chloe within the city. I am rich. I am happy. I am full. And then the light turns off and the darkness rushes back in, heavy and suffocating. I sit on the floor in the dark, scrolling through the comments of people telling me how jealous they are of my life, and I want to laugh until I vomit. They are jealous of a ghost. They are jealous of a woman who owns nothing but debt and a lighting rig. The most twisted part is that I have convinced myself that this is necessary. I tell myself that the empty apartment is just minimalism. I tell myself that selling the furniture was a decluttering journey. I reframe every act of poverty as an aesthetic choice because if I admitted that I sold my bed to pay a bank, I would have to admit that I have failed. But I have not always been this way, Sam. I did not start this journey as a liar. I did not move to Los Angeles to become a fraud. It started with something real. It started with a genuine moment of success that intoxicated me, and I have been chasing that high ever since, no matter what it costs me. You have to understand that the first time I tasted fame, it did not taste like anxiety. It tasted like champagne. It was 3 years ago, and I was still living in a shared apartment in Columbus, Ohio, working as a receptionist at a dental office. I was making $18 an hour. I was nobody. One random Tuesday, I posted a video on TikTok. It was nothing special. I was just showing how I styled a blazer I had found at a thrift store for $12. I filmed it against a white wall in my bedroom, and I went to sleep. When I woke up the next morning, my phone was so hot from the notifications that I could feel the heat through the case. I had 1.2 million views. My follower count had jumped from 300 to 50,000 overnight. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed, staring at the screen, watching the numbers climb in real time. It felt like I had won the lottery. People were commenting, asking me where I got my shoes, asking for my skincare routine, asking me for advice on how to be confident. For the first time in my life, I felt seen. I felt important. I went to work that day, but I was not really there. I was floating. I was checking my phone under the desk every 30 seconds, and then the panic set in. Because the algorithm is a hungry beast, Sam. It does not just want one viral video. It wants another one, and another one, and another one. If you do not feed it within 24 hours, you disappear. I looked at my closet, and I realized with a sinking feeling that I had nothing else to show. I had that one thrifted blazer, and the rest was fast fashion from Target that was 3 years old. I felt like a fraud. I thought, if they see the rest of my life, they will unfollow me. They will realize I am just a receptionist from Ohio. I needed to upgrade my reality to match the version of me they had created in their heads. That is when I saw it. The Jacquemus Le Chiquito bag. It was the it bag of the season. Every major influencer in New York and Paris had one. It was tiny, impractical, and absolutely beautiful. It cost $2,500. I had $1,000 in my savings account. Mathematically, it was impossible. But then I went to the checkout page and I saw a little button I had never noticed before. It said pay in 4 interest-free payments with Klarna. I stared at that button. Suddenly, the price was not $2,500. The price was $625 due today. My brain did a very dangerous gymnastic routine in that moment. I told myself, Chloe, this is not a purse. This is an investment. This is a business expense. If I buy this bag, I can make 5 videos about it. I can do an unboxing. I can do a styling video. I can do a review. If those videos get 1 million views, I will get brand deals, and the brand deals will pay for the bag 10 times over. It is return on investment. It is a capital expenditure for my personal brand. I rationalized it so perfectly. I convinced myself that not buying the bag was actually the irresponsible choice because it would mean stalling my career growth. So I clicked the button. I entered my debit card information. I felt a rush of adrenaline that was sharper and stronger than anything I had ever felt. It was better than sex. It was better than alcohol. It was the feeling of transformation. I was not spending money. I was becoming a new person. When the confirmation email landed in my inbox, I felt powerful. I told myself that I had cheated the system. I had acquired a luxury asset for a fraction of the cost. I did not see the debt. I only saw the object. When the package arrived 3 days later, I treated it like a holy relic. I washed my hands before I touched the box. I set up my ring light. I filmed the unboxing, and the sound of the tissue paper crinkling was ASMR gold. I posted the video, and it got 800,000 views. The comments were ecstatic. Oh my God, she has the bag. Rich girl energy. Goals. I felt validated. I felt like I had made the right choice. But then, 2 weeks later, the dopamine faded. The videos stopped getting views. The bag was sitting on my shelf, gathering dust. And then I got a notification from Klarna. Your payment of $625 is scheduled for tomorrow. I looked at my bank account. I had not gotten a brand deal yet. I had not monetized the views. I had to take half of my paycheck from the dental office to pay for a bag that I was too afraid to wear outside because I did not want to scratch it. I sat there eating a peanut butter sandwich for dinner because I could not afford groceries, staring at this $2,500 piece of leather. I felt a knot form in my stomach. A rational person would have sold the bag right then. A rational person would have said, I cannot afford this lifestyle. But I was not rational anymore. I was addicted to the engagement. I thought the only reason this didn't pay off is because I didn't go big enough. I just need one more piece. I just need the matching shoes. Then the brand deals will come. Then I will be safe. I told myself it was a temporary bridge to a permanent success. I did not realize that I was building the bridge out of dynamite. The bag depreciated the moment I took the tag off, but the payments did not stop. And by the time I paid off that final installment, I had already opened 3 new buy now, pay later loans for a pair of Bottega boots and a flight to Miami. I was chasing a horizon that kept moving further away, and I was paying 25% interest for the privilege of running. You have to understand the physiology of the addiction, because it is not just about greed or vanity. It is chemical. When I talk about the high, I am talking about a physical sensation that starts in the base of my skull and spreads down to my fingertips. It happens the moment I press the blue share button on Instagram. Let me take you back to that first viral photo with the Jacquemus bag. I spent 3 hours setting up that shot. I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning because I needed the lighting to be soft and diffuse. I moved my mattress into the hallway because the white wall in my bedroom had a scuff mark on it. I contorted my body into positions that were physically painful just to make my legs look longer and my jawline look sharper. I took 450 photographs of the exact same pose, 450, and then I spent another hour editing. I smoothed my skin. I whitened my eyes. I increased the saturation on the bag so that the blue leather popped against the white background. By the time I was ready to post, I was exhausted, sweaty, and anxious. I felt like I was about to walk onto a stage in front of a firing squad. I pressed share, and then I threw my phone across the room onto the bed because I was too terrified to look. I stood in the corner, biting my nails, waiting. And then it started. The sound, it was not a ringtone. It was a vibration. Buzz, then another buzz, then another, and then it became a continuous hum. The phone was vibrating so hard it was actually moving across the duvet. I walked over and picked it up, and the screen was a waterfall of notifications. At Sarah Love liked your photo. At Fashion Killa commented, obsessed. At Daily Style reposted your story in that moment. The anxiety evaporated. It was instantaneous. It was like someone had injected a warm golden liquid directly into my veins. The knot in my stomach from the debt gone. The guilt about using the rent money, gone. The fear that I was a fraud, gone. When I hold that bag in the photo and I see 50,000 people double tapping the screen to validate it, I am not Chloe from Ohio anymore. I am not the girl who got made fun of in high school for wearing Payless shoes. I am not the receptionist who gets yelled at by patients because their insurance was denied. I am her. I am the main character. I am the girl other people want to be. I sat there for 6 hours straight, not moving, not eating, just refreshing the feed. Every swipe down was a pull on a slot machine, and every time I won. Queen, goals, icon, mom, can I be her? I read every single comment. I drank them like water. It is the most potent antidepressant I have ever taken. It is a $2,500 sedative, and then the ultimate validation arrived. An email notification popped up at the top of the screen. It was from a small jewelry brand. The subject line read, "Collaboration Inquiry." My heart stopped. I opened it, and the marketing manager wrote, "Hi Chloe, we love your aesthetic and the way you styled your recent post. We would love to send you some pieces and offer you $500 for a dedicated post." I screamed. I literally screamed in my empty apartment. I felt like Warren Buffett. I felt like a titan of industry. In my mind, this proved everything. I looked at the bag sitting on my dresser, and it did not look like debt anymore. It looked like a tool. It looked like a seed I had planted that was finally bearing fruit. I told myself, see, you were right. You spent $2,500, and you just made $500 back. If I just keep doing this, if I just keep upgrading, the numbers will eventually balance out. I felt invincible. I walked differently when I went out to get coffee that afternoon. I carried the bag, and I felt people looking at it. I assumed they were looking at me with admiration. In reality, they probably did not care. But in my head, I was walking on a red carpet. I was projecting a force field of wealth and success. I believed my own lies, Sam. I truly believed that I had crossed over to the other side, where money does not matter because you are famous. But the problem with a dopamine high is that it has a half-life. The biology does not let you stay there forever. By the next morning, the notifications had slowed down. The vibration stopped. The waterfall became a drip. I refreshed the feed and there were no new comments. The algorithm had moved on to someone else, someone younger, someone with a newer bag, someone with a better vacation. The silence returned to my apartment and it was louder than before. The golden warmth in my veins turned into ice. I looked at the bag on the dresser and suddenly it was just a bag again. It was just a piece of leather and metal that I would be paying off for the next 12 months. The $500 brand deal was not enough to cover my rent. The high was gone, and the reality of my life was waiting for me like a monster in the closet. I felt a panic rising in my throat. I felt invisible again. I felt like I was disappearing. And my brain, now rewired by the addiction, gave me the only solution it knew. It whispered to me, "Do it again. You need another hit. You need something better. The bag is old news. You need shoes. You need a trip. You need to shock them. You need to prove you are still here." And that is when I opened the Revolve app. Not because I needed clothes, but because I needed to feel alive. You have to understand that for the first year, I thought I had hacked the system. I thought I had discovered the dirty little secret that every other influencer was using. And in a way, we call it wardrobing. It is the engine that runs the entire fashion industry on Instagram. The premise is simple. You buy a $600 dress, you wear it for exactly 20 minutes to take a photo, and then you return it the next day for a full refund. I became a surgeon of retail fraud. I had a toolkit. I had double-sided tape to hold the tags inside the garment so they would not show in the picture. I had clear packing tape to put on the soles of designer shoes so they would not get scuffed on the pavement. I had a steamer to remove the wrinkles from sitting in the car. My apartment looked like a shipping fulfillment center. There were boxes everywhere. I was cycling through $10,000 to $15,000 of merchandise a month, but my actual cost was zero. I felt like a genius. I was wearing Zimmermann and Saint Laurent, and I was not paying a dime. I walked into Nordstrom like I owned the place. I smiled at the sales associates. I knew their names. I thought we were friends, but I did not know that every time I swiped my card for a refund, a silent alarm was triggering in a database I had never heard of called the Retail Equation. It is a system that tracks consumer behavior, and I was glowing red on their screens. The day it all came crashing down was a Tuesday in November. I walked into the Nordstrom at the Grove in Los Angeles. I was returning a pair of Valentino heels and a leather jacket. The total value was about $3,000. I placed the box on the counter. I smiled at the girl behind the register. Her name was Jessica. She scanned the receipt. Beep. Then she scanned the shoes. Beep. And then she stopped. She stared at the screen. Her face changed. It went from the polite customer service mask to something cold and confused. She typed something on the keyboard. She hit enter. Nothing happened. She looked up at me and said, "I am sorry. The system is not letting me process this return." I laughed. I said, "Oh, that is weird. Maybe try it again. I have the receipt right here." She tried again. Beep. The screen flashed a message that I could not see, but I could feel the temperature in the room drop. She said, "I have to call a manager." My stomach turned into a block of ice. I stood there, clutching my handbag, feeling the sweat prickle on my lower back. Other customers were waiting behind me. I could feel their eyes burning into the back of my neck. The manager walked over. He did not smile. He looked at the screen, then he looked at me, and then he handed me a small slip of paper that looked like a receipt. He said loud enough for everyone in the line to hear, "Miss, you have been banned from making returns at this location and all affiliated stores due to unreasonable return activity. We cannot accept these items. Please take them and leave." I felt like I had been slapped in the face. I tried to argue. I stammered, "But they are unworn. I have the tags." He just shook his head and pushed the box back toward me. I grabbed the box and ran. I literally ran out of the store. I sat in my car in the parking structure and cried for an hour. I looked at the slip of paper. It was a permanent ban. And it was not just Nordstrom. Within 2 weeks, I got the same message from Revolve. Then Sephora, then Bloomingdale's. The walls were closing in. I had been blacklisted. And this is the moment, Sam. This is the moment where a sane person would have stopped. I sat on my floor, surrounded by $3,000 of clothes that I could not return. I had used my rent money to buy them, expecting the refund to cover the bills. Now, the money was gone. I had two choices. Choice A was to admit defeat. I could sell the clothes on Poshmark for a loss, pay what I could, and stop being a fashion influencer. I could go back to posting about affordable style. I could be honest. But choice B was the monster. Choice B whispered that I could not stop. If I stopped posting luxury looks, my engagement would drop. If my engagement dropped, the brands would stop emailing. If the brands stopped emailing, I would have to go back to being a receptionist. I was terrified of becoming irrelevant. I was terrified of being ordinary. So I chose the nuclear option. I decided that if I could not return the clothes, I would just have to buy them. But I had no money, so that same night, sitting in the dark with the blue light of my laptop illuminating my tear-stained face, I opened 3 new browser tabs: American Express, Chase, Capital One. I applied for them all in a span of 45 minutes. I lied on the applications. When they asked for my annual income, I did not write $40,000. I wrote $150,000. I told myself it was not a lie, it was a projection of my future earnings. I clicked submit. The screen buffered for 10 seconds. Those 10 seconds felt like 10 years. And then the word appeared. Approved. Credit limit $15,000. I felt a surge of relief so powerful it made me dizzy. I did it again. Approved. $10,000. Again. Approved. $8,000. In less than an hour, I had access to $33,000 of fresh capital. I felt rich again. I did not see it as debt. I saw it as a lifeline. I told myself, I will use these cards to buy the clothes, I will grow the account to 500,000 followers, and then I will pay it all off in one big check. It was magical thinking. It was delusion, but it allowed me to sleep that night. And once the floodgates were opened, I drowned. Because now that I was keeping the clothes, I had to store them, I had to accessorize them. I stopped looking at price tags. I was swiping plastic that did not feel like real money. It felt like a game score. $5,000 became $10,000, $10,000 became $40,000, and now, here I am, $80,000 deep, with a closet full of clothes I am too depressed to wear, and a credit score that is in free fall. But the worst part isn't the buying, Sam. The worst part isn't even the debt. It is the lying. It is looking into the camera every single day and smiling while you are dying inside. You talk about the lying as an abstract concept, but I need you to understand the physical toll of living 2 distinct lives in the same body. The lying is not just mental, it is logistical. It requires a level of planning that rivals a military operation. Last week, the separation between my 2 worlds collapsed for exactly 3 minutes, and it was the most terrifying experience of my life. It was Thursday night. On Instagram, I had just posted a throwback photo of myself at a spa in Sedona with the caption, "Rest and recharge." My followers thought I was getting a deep tissue massage. In reality, I was sitting in the driver's seat of my Range Rover in a parking lot behind a Chipotle, waiting for a DoorDash order to be ready. I started driving for delivery apps 2 months ago under a fake name I set up using my cousin's information because I was terrified that if I used my own name, a fan might screenshot it. I had to pay the minimum on my Chase Sapphire card or it was going to go to collections, and I was $300 short. So I was working the dinner rush. The car smelled like grease and despair. I have leather seats that are supposed to smell like luxury, but now they smell like old French fries and curry. It is a smell that has seeped into my clothes and my hair. I keep a bottle of Chanel No. 5 in the glove box to spray myself before I film, just to mask the scent of my failure. That night, I got a ping for a high-value order. It was a $70 order from a high-end Thai restaurant in Beverly Hills. The payout was $12. I accepted it immediately. I drove to the restaurant, picked up the 2 large paper bags, and checked the delivery address. My stomach dropped. It was a luxury high-rise on Wilshire Boulevard. I know this building. I have been to parties in this building. It is the kind of place where the doorman wears a suit and the elevators have marble floors. I pulled up to the valet, and I felt the first wave of panic. I was driving a $90,000 car to deliver $12 worth of pad thai. The valet looked at me, then looked at the car, then looked at the bags of food in the passenger seat. He looked confused. I kept my head down, wearing a black oversized hoodie with the hood pulled up and dark sunglasses, even though it was 8 o'clock at night. I told him I was just dropping off food. He sneered at me and pointed to the service entrance around the back. I felt so small. I felt like vermin scuttling into the basement. I took the service elevator up to the 22nd floor. The elevator smelled of cleaning chemicals and trash. As the numbers ticked up, I checked the customer's name on the app again. It just said Vanessa G. The name did not register at first. I was too focused on not being seen. The elevator doors opened, and I walked down the long, silent hallway. The carpet was thick and plush. The lighting was dim and golden. I found apartment 22. I set the food down on the doormat to take the proof of delivery photo, but just as I bent down, the door swung open. I froze. Standing there, wearing a silk robe and holding a glass of white wine, was Vanessa. Not just any Vanessa. Vanessa, the beauty influencer with 3 million followers. We had done a brand trip together in Cabo San Lucas 6 months ago. We followed each other. We commented on each other's posts. I was crouching on her doormat like a servant. I tried to turn my head away, to hide in the shadow of my hood, but it was too late. She looked down at the food, then she looked up at me. Her eyes widened. She tilted her head, confused. She said, "Chloe," the sound of my name coming out of her mouth felt like a gunshot. My heart stopped beating. I could feel the blood draining from my face. Time suspended. In that split second, I saw my entire career flash before my eyes. I saw her taking out her phone. I saw her posting a story saying, "Oh my God, you guys, I just ordered Thai food and Chloe delivered it. Is she okay?" I saw the Reddit threads. I saw the comments. I saw the humiliation. I saw the end of everything I had built. My brain went into survival mode. I stood up, pulled down my sunglasses, and forced the biggest, brightest, fakest smile I have ever smiled in my life. I laughed. It was a manic, high-pitched laugh that sounded bordering on hysterical. I said, "Vanessa, oh my God, hi. I cannot believe I got your order. This is so crazy." She was still staring at me, bewildered. She said, "Chloe, what are you doing? Are you delivering food?" She looked at the Range Rover key in my hand and then back at the insulated delivery bag. The pieces were coming together in her mind. I had to stop her from solving the puzzle. I had to lie, and not just a little lie. I needed a lie so big and so bold that it would cover the stench of the truth. I said, "No, no, oh my God, no." I am filming a YouTube video. It is a documentary series about the gig economy, like a social experiment. I am working different minimum wage jobs for a week to understand the struggle of the working class and raise awareness. My cameraman is down in the lobby right now. We are doing a whole segment on the reality of service work. I watched her face. I watched the suspicion wrestle with the explanation, and then the suspicion died. She smiled. She said, "Oh, wow, that is actually such a cool concept. That is so smart of you. It is so brave to get your hands dirty like that." She bought it. She bought it because in our world, everything is content. It made perfect sense to her that I would cosplay poverty for clicks. It made more sense than the reality that I was actually poor. She chatted for another minute, telling me she couldn't wait to see the video, and then she tipped me $20 in cash. She handed me a $20 bill like she was donating to charity. I took it. I said goodbye. I turned around and walked back to the elevator with my head held high. But the moment the elevator doors closed, my legs gave out. I slid down the wall until I was sitting on the dirty floor of the service elevator. I was gasping for air. I felt like I had just run a marathon while holding my breath. I got to my car, threw the delivery bag in the back seat, and I drove 2 blocks away to a dark side street. I put the car in park, opened the door, and I vomited onto the pavement. I threw up until there was nothing left in my stomach. I was shaking so hard I could not close the door. I sat there, wiping my mouth with a fast food napkin, staring at the $20 bill Vanessa had given me. It was crisp. It was real. And it was the most humiliating money I have ever earned. I realized then that I was playing Russian roulette every time I left my house. Every time I swiped a card, every time I told a lie, I was pulling the trigger. And tonight, the gun had jammed. But I knew with absolute certainty that the next time, the bullet would be real. I realized I was exactly one door opening away from my life being over. And the terrifying part, Sam, I turned the app back on. I wiped my face, I sprayed the Chanel perfume, and I accepted another order because I needed the money more than I needed my dignity. After that night in the service elevator, you would think that I would have cut up the cards and filed for bankruptcy right then and there. But addiction does not work that way. Addiction is a creature that thrives on shame. And when you feel that level of humiliation, you do not want to stop, you want to numb the pain. And the only way I knew how to numb the pain was to spend money. The problem was, the credit cards were dead. I had hit the ceiling on every single one of them. The American Express was declined at a gas station. The Chase card was $400 over the limit. The well had run dry, but the algorithm knew I was desperate. It is terrifying how much they know. 2 days after the DoorDash incident, I was scrolling through my feed at 3 o'clock in the morning, unable to sleep, and an ad popped up. It was not for a bag or a shoe. It was for a company with a friendly modern name like Startup or Lyft. The ad said, consolidate your debt today. Get up to $50,000 in your account in 24 hours. No impact to credit score to check your rate. It looked so clean. It looked so professional. It did not look like a loan shark in a dark alley. It looked like a tech company in Silicon Valley. I clicked the link. I told myself I was just checking. The application took 3 minutes. I entered my information. I entered my inflated income, and then the offer appeared on the screen. It was dazzling. They were offering me a lump sum of $15,000. I stared at that number. $15,000. That was enough to pay my rent for 3 months. That was enough to pay off the minimums on the credit cards. It felt like salvation. But then I looked at the fine print, which was written in a light gray font that was barely legible. The annual percentage rate was 36%. The origination fee was $700 taken off the top. The monthly payment was $900 for 5 years. My brain saw the red flags. My brain screamed, Chloe, this is financial suicide. You cannot afford a $900 payment on top of everything else. But then I opened Instagram again. And the first thing I saw was a post from Vanessa. The same Vanessa who had tipped me $20. She posted a photo of snowy mountains with the caption, Aspen bound. Who is coming to the winter wonderland? I scrolled down. Everyone was going. The entire influencer circle, the girls I knew, the girls I wanted to be, the brands I wanted to work with, they were all converging on Aspen, Colorado for the annual Winter Influencer Week. If I did not go, I was signaling that I was broke. If I did not go, I was admitting that I was not part of the elite. The fear of missing out hit me like a physical blow to the chest. It was a panic attack. I thought, if I am not in those photos, I do not exist. I switched tabs back to the loan offer. I looked at the $15,000. I thought, I will use this money to book the trip. I will get amazing content in the snow. I will network with the big brands. This trip will be the turning point. This is an investment. I clicked accept. The money was in my account the next morning. I felt a surge of relief, so intense I almost cried. I booked a flight. I booked a room at the Stee, Regis, which cost $1,200 a night. I bought a new white ski suit that cost $800. I was going to Aspen. But the reality of that trip was the most miserable experience of my entire life. I arrived in Aspen, and the air smelled like pine needles and old money. Everyone looked perfect. The streets were lined with Moncler and Prada stores. I checked into the hotel, and my room was beautiful. It had a fireplace and a view of the mountains. But once I paid for the room and the flight, a huge chunk of the loan was already gone. I had to make the remaining money last, but Aspen is a place where a hamburger costs $35. So I developed a strategy that makes me sick to think about now. I went to a local grocery store on the outskirts of town and I bought a box of 20 protein bars, chocolate peanut butter flavor. That was my food for 4 days. While the other girls were going out to Nobu and Matsuhisa for sushi dinners that cost $500 a person, I would say, oh, I am actually so tired from the altitude, I am just going to order room service and crash. Then I would go up to my room, lock the door, sit on the edge of the bed in my $1,200 a night room, and eat a dry protein bar and drink tap water from the bathroom sink, my stomach would growl all night. I was starving in the lap of luxury. But the worst part was the drinking. You cannot go to Aspen and not go to the après-ski parties. That is where the content happens. That is where the photos are taken. So I would put on my $800 ski suit even though I did not ski because I could not afford a lift ticket, and I would go to the Cloud9 Alpine Bistro. The music was loud, champagne was spraying everywhere. People were ordering bottles of Veuve Clicquot that cost $200 each. I was terrified that someone would ask to put a round on my tab. I would walk up to the bar, my heart pounding, and order the cheapest thing on the menu, which was a vodka soda for $28. I would nurse that single drink for 3 hours. I would hold it until the ice melted and the water was warm. I would take tiny sips just to have a glass in my hand so I looked like I belonged. I laughed at jokes I did not hear. I took selfies with girls who ignored me the second the camera was off. I smiled until my face hurt. And then on the last day, I hit a new low. I ran out of makeup wipes and I ran out of toilet paper in the room because the housekeeping staff had not come yet. I went down to the lobby bathroom, the one with the marble floors and the fresh orchids. I waited until the stall was empty. I opened my designer handbag, the same one I was still paying for, and I started unrolling the toilet paper from the dispenser. I wrapped it around my hand again and again, creating a massive wad of stolen paper. I stuffed it into my bag. Then I took the little bottles of lotion and soap from the counter. I felt like a criminal. I caught my own reflection in the mirror as I was stuffing free lotion into my purse. I was wearing a white fur hat and designer sunglasses. I looked like a millionaire. But I was stealing toilet paper because I did not have $5 to buy a pack at the store. I realized then that I was not just broke. I was hollow. I was a shell of a person painted in gold, but inside there was nothing but sawdust and protein bars. I looked rich, but I was a scavenger. And when I got home, the photos looked amazing. I got 30,000 likes on my Aspen dump post, but the $15,000 was gone. And 3 weeks later, the first bill for the loan arrived. $912, due immediately. I stared at it, and I realized I had not just dug a hole, I had poured concrete over my own head. I had traded 5 years of my financial freedom for 4 days of pretending to be someone I hated. The system did not break quietly. It did not break in the privacy of my own home where I could cry into a pillow. It broke in the most public, loud, and humiliating way possible. It happened 2 weeks after Aspen. I was invited to a birthday dinner for a girl named Tasha, who is a massive beauty YouTuber. Getting invited to Tasha's birthday is like getting invited to the Met Gala of the Los Angeles influencer scene. It was at Catch LA, which is this rooftop restaurant in West Hollywood where the paparazzi wait outside and the air smells like truffle oil. In desperation, I knew I should not have gone. I had negative $40 in my checking account. I was surviving on sample bars I stole from the gym, but the fear of being forgotten was stronger than the fear of starvation. So I put on my best dress, I did my makeup for 2 hours, and I went. The table was long, filled with 20 of the most beautiful, verified women you have ever seen. The flash of phone cameras was constant. It looked like a lightning storm. We ordered everything. Seafood towers, Wagyu beef skewers, spicy tuna on crispy rice, bottles of tequila that cost $600 each. I sat there, picking at a piece of lobster, doing mental math that made my head spin. I knew the bill was going to be astronomical. I knew I could not afford it. But I had a plan, or at least I had a delusion. I told myself that my American Express Platinum card might still work. I knew I was over the limit, but sometimes Amex has a soft limit. Sometimes they let you slide for a few $100s if your history is good. I was banking on a glitch in the matrix. I was banking on a miracle. The dinner lasted for 3 hours. We laughed. We toasted. We took boomerang videos of our glasses clinking, and then the music stopped. The waiter appeared. He was holding the leather folder. He placed it gently in the center of the table. Tasha, the birthday girl, said, "Let's split it evenly, guys." Everyone agreed. Yes, absolutely. Put it on mine for the points. No, let's just do 20 cards. The ritual began. It is a very specific sound, Sam. The sound of heavy metal credit cards hitting a wooden table. Clack, clack, clack. It sounds like knights throwing down their gauntlets. It is the sound of status. I reached into my purse. My hand was trembling, but I hid it under the napkin. I pulled out my platinum card. It felt heavy and cold. I threw it onto the pile with as much casual confidence as I could muster. Clack. There it was, mixed in with the black cards and the sapphire reserves. The waiter gathered them all up like a deck of playing cards and walked away. That walk felt like it took a lifetime. I sat there, sipping my water, trying to listen to the girl next to me talk about her trip to Tulum, but my ears were ringing. I was watching the waiter. I saw him go to the POS terminal in the corner. I saw him start swiping. Swipe, beep. Swipe, beep. Swipe, beep. And then pause. He stopped. He looked at the screen. He frowned. He swiped the card again. My heart was hammering against my ribs so hard I thought the girl next to me could feel the vibration. He picked up the phone. He dialed a number. He was talking to the bank. I stopped breathing. I was praying to a God I had not spoken to in years. Please just let it go through. I will never buy anything again. Just let this one transaction clear. The waiter hung up the phone. He printed a slip of paper. He walked back to the table, but he did not put the folder down in the center. He walked straight to me. He leaned down. His face was inches from my ear. He smelled like mints and pity. He whispered, "Ma'am, I'm so sorry, but the card was declined." I froze. I tried to play it cool. I whispered back, "Oh, that is weird. It is probably a travel alert. Just try it again." He shook his head. He looked me in the eye, and his voice dropped even lower. He said, "No, ma'am. The instruction from the bank was pick up. I have to confiscate the card. I cannot give it back to you." My blood turned to ice. Confiscated. It is the financial equivalent of a death sentence. It means you are not just broke. You are a risk. You are rogue. He was holding my card, my identity, my status symbol, and he was putting it into his apron pocket. I felt naked. I felt like everyone at the table was looking at me, even though they were all looking at their phones. I had to act fast. I had to save the character of Chloe. I stood up, feigning annoyance. I laughed loudly. I said, "Oh my God, you guys, you are not going to believe this. Someone tried to hack my Amex in Dubai this morning, so they froze the account for fraud protection. It is so annoying, I literally cannot use it until I call them." The lie rolled off my tongue like oil. It was perfect. It made me look like a victim of international cybercrime, not a deadbeat who couldn't pay for dinner. Tasha looked up and said, "Oh no, that is the worst. Do you want me to cover you?" I said, No, I will just Venmo you right now. Just put it on your card." I pulled out my phone. I opened Venmo. The bill share was $215. I looked at my balance, $0. I looked at my connected bank account, -$40. I had no way to pay. But then I remembered, my mother lives in Ohio. She is diabetic. Every month, on the 15th, I send her $300 to help pay for her insulin copay because her insurance is terrible. I had put that money aside in a separate do not touch sub-account 3 weeks ago. It was the only money I had left in the world. It was literal life support money. It was not mine. It belonged to her pancreas. It belonged to her survival. Sat there in the candlelight, surrounded by girls wearing Gucci and Balenciaga, staring at that transfer button. I had a choice. I could tell the truth, admit I was broke, and be humiliated. Or I could steal from my sick mother to pay for a piece of spicy tuna. My thumb hovered over the screen. I felt sick. I physically felt bile rising in my throat. And then I pressed the button. I transferred the insulin money to my checking account. Then I Venmo'd Tasha $215 with a caption that said dinner with the girlies, wine emoji, sparkle emoji. The transaction cleared. Tasha smiled. "Got it, thanks babe." The waiter walked away. The conversation resumed, but I died in that chair, Sam. The moment that money left my account, something inside of me snapped. I looked around the table at these beautiful, laughing women, and they looked like demons to me. I looked at the food, and it looked like ash. I had just prioritized my reputation over my mother's health. I had just committed a moral crime to maintain a social fiction. I went to the bathroom 5 minutes later, locked the stall door, and sat on the toilet lid with my head in my hands. I did not cry. I was past crying. I was in a state of cold, hard shock. I realized that I was not just bad with money. I was a bad person. I was a liar. I was a thief. I was a narcissist who would sacrifice her own family to keep up appearances for strangers on the internet. That was the moment the crash happened, not when the card was decline. But when I realized I had become a monster, and the worst part, I walked back out to the table, ordered another drink, and posted a story smiling with the girls. I did it because I did not know how to stop. I was a car with no brakes, careening toward a cliff, and I just kept pressing the gas. You would think that stealing $300 from my diabetic mother would be the bottom of the barrel. You would think that once you have crossed that line, you would stop, look at yourself in the mirror, and vomit until you were clean. But I did not stop. In fact, that moment at the dinner table was just the gateway drug to a much darker form of criminality. I realized that night that I did not just need money to survive. I needed money to maintain the illusion, and I had run out of legal ways to get it. The banks had cut me off. The credit cards were dead. My friends were tapped out. So I turned to the only asset I had left, which was my knowledge of the luxury market. I knew exactly what sold. I knew exactly what people wanted. And I knew that there was a dark underworld of the fashion industry that most people do not know exists. We call them super fakes. These are not the cheap knockoffs you see on Canal Street in New York City with the crooked stitching and the plastic smell. These are high-quality replicas manufactured in underground factories in China that use the exact same leather, the exact same hardware, and the exact same date codes as the real thing. To the untrained eye, they are identical. To the trained eye, they are 99% perfect. I found a seller on a private WhatsApp group. His name was Chen. I messaged him at 3 o'clock in the morning. My hands were shaking, not because of the caffeine, but because I knew I was crossing a line from irresponsible debtor to active fraudster. I ordered a replica of a Vive Saint Laurent Kate shoulder bag with the gold tassel. The real bag cost $2,400 plus tax. Chen charged me $215, including shipping. I wired him the money using a frantic combination of PayPal transfers to avoid detection. Then I waited. 10 days later, a beat-up yellow package arrived at my apartment. I opened it with a box cutter, slicing through layers of tape and bubble wrap. Inside, there was a black dust bag. I pulled out the purse. I held it under my ring light. I inspected the grain of the leather. I checked the weight of the chain. It was terrifyingly good. It smelled like real leather. The logo was perfectly centered. Even the serial number stamped on the inside pocket looked legitimate. I stood there in my empty living room, holding this counterfeit object, and I felt a surge of dark power. I realized I could turn $200 into $2,000. I went to my closet and dug out an old Saint Laurent box and a shopping bag I had saved from a purchase I made 2 years ago, a purchase I had returned, but I had kept the packaging. I put the fake bag inside the real box. I arranged the tissue paper perfectly. I set up my camera. I took 12 high-resolution photos. I made sure to capture the authenticity card, which was also fake, but looked convincing enough in a JPEG. I logged on to Poshmark. I created a listing, title Authentic YSL Kate Bag, Gold Hardware Like New, description, sad to see this beauty go, purchased at Saks Fifth Avenue last year, only worn twice for photo shoots. Pristine condition. Comes with original box and dust bag. Retail price is $2,400, selling for $1,500 for a quick sale. I typed those words, and I knew I was committing a felony. I knew that wire fraud and counterfeit trafficking were real terms that carried real prison sentences, but I pressed the list item button anyway. My heart was pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. I told myself I was just borrowing the money. I told myself that the girl who bought it would never know. I told myself that if she felt like a rich girl carrying it, then wasn't I selling her the feeling she wanted? I twisted my logic into a pretzel to justify the theft. The bag sold in 4 hours. A girl named Ashley from Wisconsin bought it. She commented, "Oh my God, I have been saving up for this bag for 2 years. Thank you so much." I read that comment and I felt sick. I felt physically ill. Ashley from Wisconsin was probably a waitress or a student. She was probably working double shifts to afford this dream item. and I was sending her a $200 lie in a cardboard box. I printed the shipping label. I taped the box shut. I drove to the post office. I handed the package to the postal worker. He scanned it. Beep. He gave me a receipt. I walked out to my car and sat there for 20 minutes, staring at the steering wheel, waiting for the police to pull up with sirens blazing. They did not come. 2 days later, the money hit my account. $1,200 after fees. I felt a rush of relief that washed away the guilt. I paid my rent. I paid the minimum on the Chase card. I bought groceries for the first time in weeks. And then the addiction whispered to me again. It said, "That was easy. Do it again." And I did. I bought a fake Gucci Dionysus. Sold it for $1,800. I bought a fake Dior saddlebag. Sold it for $2,000. In total, I sold 5 designer bags on the resale market. 3 were real, liquidated from my own collection. But 2 of them were super fakes. 2 of them were crimes. And every single day since then, I live in a state of absolute terror. Every time my phone buzzes with an email notification, I think it is a lawsuit. I think it is Ashley from Wisconsin realizing that the gold plating is chipping off. I think it is the platform banning me and freezing my funds. I live with the knowledge that there are 2 women out there carrying bags that I sold them, showing them off to their friends, thinking they own a piece of luxury, when really they own a piece of my deception. I am not just broke, Sam. I am not just a girl who is bad with credit cards. I am a scammer. I stole money from strangers to fund a life that does not exist. And the worst part is, even with the $3,000 I made from the fraud, I am still drowning. The money evaporated instantly into the black hole of interest payments. I committed a crime, and I do not even have the cash to show for it. I am waiting for the knock on the door. I check the peephole every time I hear footsteps in the hallway. I am a prisoner in my own home, guarded by the ghosts of the people I have ripped off. You asked me what the deadline is, and I need you to understand that we are not talking about a metaphorical deadline anymore. We are talking about a literal, physical countdown clock that is ticking inside my head so loud I cannot hear my own thoughts. The scams, the lies, the selling of fake bags to innocent girls in Wisconsin, none of it worked. It was like throwing cupfuls of water onto a forest fire. The interest rates ate the money faster than I could steal it. And yesterday afternoon, the fire finally reached the front door. I came home from a coffee run, which was really just me sitting in my car using the free Wi-Fi from Starbucks because my home internet was cut off, and I saw it. It was taped to the door of Unit 4B at eye level, a bright orange piece of paper. It is a color you cannot ignore. It is designed to induce panic. It is the color of emergency. I stood in the hallway, holding my empty coffee cup, and I read the words, 3-day notice to pay rent or quit. It is legal language for get out. I have exactly 72 hours from the moment that notice was posted to come up with the full past due balance. That number is $4,200, not $4,000, $4,200. They added late fees. They added administrative processing fees. They added a fee for the guy who came to tape the notice to the door. I walked inside, locked the door, and opened my banking app. I refreshed the screen, praying for a glitch, praying for a deposit I forgot about. But the numbers stared back at me, cold and unmoving. $314. That is my net worth. That is my life savings. That is my entire arsenal against the world. I did the math on a napkin. 4,200 minus 314 is $3,886. That is the gap between me having a home and me sleeping in the backseat of a Range Rover that I also cannot afford. And Sam, you have to understand what losing this apartment means. It is not just about losing a roof over my head. For a normal person, eviction is a tragedy. For an influencer, eviction is a career death sentence. My apartment is my studio. It is my set. It is my lighting grid. It is the backdrop for 90% of the content I create. If I lose this space, I cannot film. If I cannot film, I cannot post. If I cannot post, the algorithm buries me within 48 hours. I cannot be a luxury lifestyle influencer from a homeless shelter. I cannot unbox skincare products in a public restroom. The illusion requires infrastructure. It requires electricity. It requires Wi-Fi. It requires a vanity with a marble top. Without the apartment, Chloe within the city ceases to exist. She evaporates. And if she evaporates, I am just a 26-year-old woman with no college degree, a ruined credit score, a criminal record waiting to happen, and $80,000 of debt chained to her ankle. I have run every scenario in my head. I thought about asking my parents, but they do not have $4,000. And if I asked them, I would have to admit that my success is a lie, which would kill my father. I thought about asking a friend, but I have burned every bridge with my fake rich act. They think I am wealthy. Asking them for rent money would expose the fraud instantly. I thought about another loan, but my credit is frozen. I thought about selling more fake bags, but I do not have the inventory and I do not have the time. Shipping takes 5 days. Have 3 days. Tuesday. Tuesday at 10 o'clock in the morning, that is when the sheriff comes. That is when the locksmith comes. That is when my life officially ends. I am paralyzed, Sam. I am sitting in this chair looking at you, and I feel like I am already a ghost. I have spent 5 years building a castle out of playing cards, and the wind is blowing, and I am out of glue. I am drowning in the shallow end of the pool because I was too proud to stand up. So I am begging you. I am putting my hands up. I surrender. I have no more moves. I have no more lies. I have no more ideas. I need you to tell me what to do. I need you to tell me how to kill the character of Chloe without killing the human being sitting in front of you. Because if I walk out of the studio without a plan, I am not going to make it to Tuesday. Stop me. Please, just stop me. Stop the spending. Stop the lying. Stop the breathing if you have to. Just tell me to stop talking and open my inventory list.
Chloe, you just asked me to stop you. You asked me to intervene before the sheriff arrives on Tuesday morning. Consider this the intervention. I want you to take your phone, the one that you used to manufacture this fantasy life, and I want you to place it on the table between us, face down. We are not going to look at likes. We are not going to look at comments. We are going to look at the only thing that matters when you have 72 hours to find $4,200. We are going to look at liquidation value. This is where most people in your position get confused, and this confusion is fatal. You look around your apartment and you see a collection of assets. You see bags, you see shoes, you see a luxury car. You think you are sitting on a gold mine that you can tap into whenever you want, but you are wrong. You are not sitting on a gold mine. You are sitting in a graveyard of depreciation. And we are going to dig up the bodies right now, one by one, to show you exactly how poor you actually are. Let us start with the crown jewel, the Chanel Classic Flat Bag. I am looking at the photo you sent my producer. It is black lambskin with gold hardware. It is beautiful. You told me you bought this bag 14 months ago for $4,200. You put it on the Chase Sapphire card. Now, because you have only been making minimum payments, you have been paying roughly 25% interest on that bag for over a year. That means you have paid approximately $1,050 in interest alone just to have that bag sit on your shelf. So your actual cost basis, the amount of money you have set on fire to own this object, is $5,250. Now, in your head, you think, well, Chanel increases in price, so it is an investment. That is the lie that the luxury marketing teams tell you to get you to swipe the card. If you walk into a consignment shop today, or if you ship this to the Real or Fashion File because you need cash fast, they do not care what you paid. They care what they can sell it for. The market is flooded with black Chanel bags right now because the economy is tightening and everyone is selling. A realistic resale price for a used bag in this condition is maybe $3,800. But you do not get $3,800. The platform takes a commission on a luxury item like this. The Real will take between 30 and 40%. Let us be generous and say they take 30%. That is $1,140 that vanishes into their pocket. That leaves you with a payout of $2,660. Now, do the math with me, Chloe. You paid $5,250 to acquire it. You are exiting with $2,600. You have lost $2,600 on a single purse. You essentially paid $200 a month to rent a handbag so you could impress strangers on the internet. That is not an asset. That is a liability wrapped in leather. And that is your best item. Let us move to the closet. You mentioned you have a wardrobe worth $15,000. I am looking at the inventory list. Revolve, Zara, Reformation, House of CB. This is not an investment portfolio. This is a pile of polyester and fast fashion. You paid $15,000 for these clothes over the last 2 years. But unlike the Chanel bag, these items do not hold value. The moment you cut the tags off a $200 dress from Revolve, it becomes a $20 dress at a thrift store. You cannot consign these online for fast cash because the processing time is weeks or months. You need money by Tuesday. That means your only option is a buy, sell, trade store like Buffalo Exchange or Crossroads Trading. Do you know how that works? You walk in with a garbage bag full of your investments. A 20-year-old hipster behind the counter sorts through them. He rejects 60% of them because they are out of season or have a loose thread. For the items he takes, he offers you 30% of the resale price in cash. So that $200 dress, he will price it at $50, which means he will hand you $15 cash. You spent $15,000 on this pile. If you liquidated every single stitch of clothing you own today, you would be lucky, and I mean extremely lucky, to walk away with $2,000. That is a 90% loss. You have turned $15,000 of capital into a pile of rags that is worth less than 1 month of rent. You do not have a closet, Chloe. You have a landfill. And finally, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. The Range Rover. You drive a $90,000 car. You park it in the valet. It signals to the world that you have made it. But let us look at the lease agreement you signed. You put $0 down. You are paying $1,200 a month. You are 2 months behind. You do not own this car. You are renting it from the bank. And because you are in default, you cannot just sell it to CarMax and walk away. You are upside down, which means you owe more on the car than the car is worth. If you return the car today, if you surrender it voluntarily to stop the bleeding, the dealership will charge you an early termination penalty. They will charge you for the scratches on the bumper. They will charge you for the extra miles. Based on standard lease contracts, it will cost you at least $1,000 just to get rid of this car. It is a negative asset. It is a parasite that is attached to your bank account, sucking $1,200 out of you every 30 days. You cannot eat the car. You cannot sleep in the car if they repossess it. And you certainly cannot use it to pay your landlord. So, let us tally up the scorecard. You have a bag that is a $2,000 loss. You have a wardrobe that is a $13,000 loss. You have a car that is a liability. And you have $314 in the bank. You thought you were building a collection. You thought you were curating a lifestyle. But what you were actually doing was lighting money on fire to keep yourself warm. You have been cannibalizing your future to feed your ego. And now, we are at the end of the line. The math is undeniable. You are insolvent. You are bankrupt. And the only way you survive Tuesday is if we stop pretending that any of this junk has value to you. It has no value to you anymore. Its only value is what it can do to keep the sheriff away from your door. You need to look at that bag and not see a status symbol. You need to see a rent check. You need to look at that car and not see a luxury vehicle. You need to see a pair of handcuffs. We are going to liquidate everything, not next week, not when the market is good. Today, we are going to strip you down to the floorboards, because that is the only way you are going to build a foundation that does not collapse the next time the wind blows. You do not have a collection, Chloe. You have a graveyard of bad decisions, and we are going to start digging. We have spent the last 45 minutes dissecting the anatomy of a disaster. We have looked at the numbers, we have looked at the lies, and we have looked at the terrifying reality of a Tuesday morning eviction. The diagnosis is clear. You are suffering from financial gangrene. The infection has spread from your bank account to your career, and now it is threatening your very survival. When a limb is gangrenous, you do not put a band-aid on it. You do not wish it away. You amputate. It is painful. It is bloody, and it changes you forever, but it is the only way to save the rest of the body. I am going to give you a treatment plan right now. It consists of 3 steps. These are not suggestions. These are not ideas for you to mull over while you sip your morning coffee. These are non-negotiable commands. If you deviate from this plan by even 1 degree, the sheriff will come, the locks will change, and the career of Chloe within the city will be over. Step 1 is the fire sale. This addresses the immediate hemorrhage. You have exactly 72 hours to find $3,886 to stop the eviction. You cannot wait for Poshmark buyers to negotiate with you. You cannot wait for shipping labels to print. You need liquidity today. The moment you leave this studio, I want you to drive that Range Rover to the nearest Fashionphile or Rebag location in Beverly Hills. You are going to take the Chanel bag, the St. Laurent bag, and every other piece of leather goods you have left that is authentic. You are going to walk up to the counter and you are going to sell them for a direct buyout. They will lowball you. They will offer you 50 cents on the dollar. It will feel like a physical punch to the gut to accept $2,000 for something you paid $4,000 for. You will want to argue. You will want to walk away out of pride. You must swallow that pride. You take the cash. Then you drive to Buffalo Exchange and Crossroads Trading with every single piece of clothing in your closet. You do not keep just one nice dress for a rainy day. You sell it all. If they offer you $10, you take it. You are not looking for value. You are looking for survival. You scrape together every single penny until you have $4,200 in your hand, and you run to the leasing office and you pay your rent. That buys you 30 days of oxygen. That stops the immediate death. But that does not fix the $80,000 monster standing behind you. That leads us to step 2, which is the legal shield. Chloe, you are the perfect candidate for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. I know that word sounds like a failure. I know you have been programmed to believe that bankruptcy is for losers and criminals. That is a lie told by banks to keep you paying interest. Bankruptcy is a tool. It is a legal protection created by the United States government for people exactly in your position. You have $80,000 in unsecured debt. You have 0 assets. You have no home equity to protect. You have no investment accounts to seize. You are what lawyers call judgment-proof. If you file for Chapter 7, the court will look at your finances, see that you are insolvent, and they will discharge the debt. That means the $80,000 vanishes. It is wiped clean. The phone calls stop. The letters stop. The interest stops. You will walk out of that courtroom with 0 debt. Now, there is a cost. Your credit score will be nuked for 7 to 10 years. You will not be able to get a credit card. You will not be able to buy a house. You might have trouble renting a luxury apartment. But guess what? You are already unable to do those things. Your credit is already ruined. You are already effectively banned from the financial system. Formalizing it just stops the bleeding. It gives you a fresh start. You need to consult with a bankruptcy attorney immediately. You use the money you save from not paying credit card bills to pay the lawyer's retainer. This is a strategic business decision to restructure your life. Do not let shame keep you in chains. But step 3 is the most important one. Step 3 is the hardest one. Step 3 is the death of Chloe. The character you have created, the rich girl, the fashion icon, the girl who has it all, she has to die. You cannot sustain her. You cannot afford her. And frankly, she is the one who is killing you. But this does not mean your career is over. In fact, this is how you save it. The internet loves perfection. But do you know what the internet loves even more than perfection? The internet loves redemption. The internet loves a train wreck that turns into a triumph. I want you to go home to your empty apartment. I want you to take off the makeup. I want you to put on a hoodie. I want you to sit on the floor in front of that ring light. And I want you to turn the camera on. And I want you to tell the truth. All of it. I want you to title the video, "I am $80,000 in debt and I am a fraud." You tell them about the fake bags. You tell them about the stolen toilet paper in Aspen. You tell them about the eviction notice. You cry. You scream. You let them see the ugly, raw, unpolished reality of your life. And then you pivot. You delete Chloe within the city. You rebrand. You become Chloe the realist. You document your journey out of the hole. You make videos about how to budget on a minimum wage income. You make videos about shopping at Goodwill instead of Saks. You make videos about the legal process of bankruptcy. You become the face of the financial recovery movement. There are millions of girls out there just like you, drowning in debt, terrified, and alone. If you become their leader, if you show them the way out, You will get more engagement, more views, and more loyal followers than you ever did posting pictures of a handbag. You trade the fake luxury for real influence. You monetize the mess. This is your only path forward. You have to burn the old life to the ground to build the new one. So that is the plan. Sell the assets. File the papers. Kill the character. It is radical. It is terrifying. And it is going to hurt like hell. But the alternative is you living in your car next Tuesday while the repo man hooks it up to a tow truck. Those are your two options. You can keep the image, or you can keep your sanity. You cannot have both. Which one do you choose?
I am sitting here, staring at the black screen of my phone, and for the first time in 5 years, I am not thinking about the next angle. I am not thinking about the lighting. I am not thinking about the caption. I am thinking about the silence. You just gave me a choice that feels like a funeral. You told me to kill the character of Chloe within the city. And my immediate, visceral reaction was terror. It felt like you asked me to stop breathing. Because for so long, I have believed that she is the only parts of me that are worth loving. I believed that without the filter, without the gloss, without the luxury, I am just a boring, broken girl from Ohio who nobody wants to look at. I believed that if I stopped performing, the audience would stand up and leave the theater, and I would be left alone in the dark. But as I sit here, listening to the hum of the air conditioner in this studio, I am realizing something that makes my chest feel tight, but in a different way. It is not the tightness of panic. It is the tightness of grief. I am realizing that I hate her. I hate the character I created. I hate Chloe within the city. She is not my savior. She is my abuser. She wakes me up at 3 o'clock in the morning with panic attacks. She forces me to steal from my mother. She forces me to lie to my friends. She forces me to starve myself in hotel rooms while pretending to eat caviar. She is a tyrant, and she is expensive. She demands every single dollar I earn, and she demands every ounce of my peace. I have been working so hard to keep her alive, feeding her with debt and deceit, but she has given me nothing back but shame. You are right, Sam. She has to die. And the thought of letting her go is terrifying, but the thought of keeping her is worse. I am so tired. I am exhausted in my bones. I am tired of the math. I am tired of calculating interest rates in my head while I am trying to fall asleep. I am tired of the fear that hits me every time the doorbell rings. I am tired of holding my breath. I feel like I have been holding a beach ball underwater for 5 years, and my arms are shaking and my muscles are burning, and I just want to let go. I want to let it pop up to the surface. I want to see what happens when I stop fighting gravity. You asked me what happens if I tell the truth. You asked me if the followers will leave. And 10 minutes ago, that was my biggest fear. But now, I am looking at it differently. If they follow me because I have a Chanel bag, then they are following the bag, not me. I am just the mannequin holding it. And if I sell the bag and they unfollow me, then they were never really there for me in the first place, were they? They were just consuming the illusion. Losing them is not a loss. It is a filtration process. But maybe, just maybe, there are people out there who are just as tired as I am. Maybe there are girls who are scrolling through their feeds right now, feeling inadequate, feeling poor, feeling ugly, because they are comparing their real lives to someone else's fake highlight reel. If I show them the truth, if I show them the eviction notice, if I show them the empty apartment, maybe they will not leave. Maybe they will exhale. Maybe they will feel less alone. And even if they do leave, even if my follower count drops to 0, even if I become irrelevant, at least I will be free. I will be able to sleep. I will be able to answer the door. I will be able to look at myself in the mirror without seeing a scammer staring back at me. I am looking at the Chanel bag sitting on the table next to me. It is right there. The gold hardware is gleaming under the studio lights. An hour ago, that bag was my identity. It was my armor. But now, I look at it, and I just see a piece of dead animal skin held together by thread. It is not magical. It is just an object. And it is an object that is holding me hostage. I am reaching out my hand. I am touching the quilted leather. It feels cold. It feels heavy. But it does not feel like mine anymore. It feels like currency. It feels like a rent check. It feels like a lawyer's retainer. I am picking up my phone. I am unlocking it. I am not opening Instagram. I am opening the camera app. I am pointing the lens at the bag. I am taking a picture. Click. That sound, that shutter sound usually triggers a dopamine rush because I am anticipating the likes. But this time, there is no rush. There is just a quiet resolve. I am opening the Fashion File app. I am clicking sell. I am uploading the photo. I am typing in the description, Chanel classic flap, black lambskin, gold hardware, condition good. It asked me if I want a quote for a direct buyout. I am clicking yes. I am pressing submit. It is done. The request is sent. In 24 hours, I will have an offer. In 48 hours, I will have the cash. And in 72 hours, this bag will be gone. And I am not stopping there. I am going to go home and I am going to tear that apartment apart. I am going to take the clothes off the hangers. I am going to take the shoes out of the boxes. I am going to load up the Range Rover until it is full to the roof. And I am going to drive to Beverly Hills, not to shop, but to liquidate. I am going to surrender. I am surrendering the image to save the person. I am choosing sanity. I am choosing freedom. I am choosing to be broke and honest rather than rich and fake. Goodbye, Chloe within the city. It was nice knowing you. Actually, no, it was hell knowing you. I am ready to meet the real me. I hope she is someone I can actually live with.
The recording light on the console has turned from red to gray, and the studio is silent now, except for the low hum of the ventilation system and the sound of my own breathing. Chloe has left the room, and she walked out of here different than she walked in. When she arrived, she was vibrating with the frantic energy of someone trying to hold up a collapsing building with her bare hands, wearing the armor of a successful woman, the designer jacket, the heavy gold jewelry, the perfect makeup, but underneath it, she was trembling. Now, she has gone to dismantle that building brick by brick, driving a car she does not own to a store to sell a bag she cannot afford to pay a landlord who wants to evict her. To the outside world, to the casual observer, Chloe looks like a failure. And if you look at her credit report tomorrow, it will show a disaster, it will show missed payments, it will show defaults, and soon, it will show a Chapter 7 bankruptcy filing that will stay on her record for 10 years. Society will look at her and see a cautionary tale. They will see a girl who flew too close to the sun and burned her wings. But sitting here in this chair, having looked into her eyes when she finally decided to let go of the lie, I see something different. I see a woman who has just become the richest person in her zip code, not because she has money in the bank, she has $314 to her name, but because she has reclaimed the one asset that no creditor can seize and no algorithm can devalue. She has reclaimed her reality. She is no longer a prisoner of her own invention. We have spent the last hour listening to a horror story, but do not mistake it for a unique anomaly. Because Chloe is not a rare monster created in a laboratory, she is a mirror. She is a reflection of the economic water we are all swimming in. We are living in a historical moment where the currency of social worth has been decoupled from actual productivity, and we have built an economy on the foundation of perception, creating a world where it is more profitable to look rich than to be rich. We call it the Instagram tax. It is the premium we pay for the approval of strangers. It is the interest rate we pay on our own insecurity. Every time you swipe a credit card for a dinner, you cannot afford to post a photo you will never look at again. You are paying the Instagram tax. Every time you lease a car that costs more than your rent because you are afraid of what your coworkers will think if you drive a Honda, you are paying the Instagram tax. And the tax collector is ruthless because he does not just take your money. He takes your peace of mind. He takes your sleep. He takes your ability to be present in your own life because you are too busy curating a digital version of it for an audience that is scrolling past you in 3 seconds. There is a quote that is often attributed to the actor Will Smith, but it speaks to a fundamental truth of the human condition in the 21st century. He said that we spend money that we do not have on things we do not need to impress people who do not like us. Let us break that down, because that single sentence is the architectural blueprint of the financial prison Chloe built for herself. Money we do not have is the credit system. It is the trap of the 24.99% interest rate that allows us to disconnect the pain of paying from the pleasure of acquiring. Things we do not need is the consumerism engine telling us that we are incomplete, telling us that we are one purchase away from happiness, telling us that the bag is not a bag, it is an identity. And finally, the most tragic part, to impress people who do not like us. Chloe was destroying her life to impress Vanessa, a girl who tipped her $20 like she was a servant. She was destroying her life to impress anonymous commenters who would forget her name the moment she stopped posting. Why do we do this? Why do we sacrifice our freedom for the applause of ghosts? It is because we are terrified of being ordinary. We have been sold a lie that says an ordinary life is a failed life. But I am here to tell you that the opposite is true. The most radical, rebellious, and powerful thing you can be in this economy is solvent. The most profound status symbol is not a Chanel bag, it is a zero balance on your credit card statement. Chloe is $80,000 in the hole, but today she is free. So now, I have to turn the spotlight on you. You are listening to this in your car, or on your commute, or maybe while you are doing the dishes. What is your Chanel bag? What is the thing you are holding on to that is keeping you poor? Is it the house that is too big for your family? Or the wedding that cost $40,000 when you only had $5,000 saved? We all have a lie. We are financing. We all have a character we are playing. And today, I am asking you to kill that character before it kills you. If this story resonated with you, if you felt a pang of recognition when Chloe described the panic of the declined card, then do not just listen and move on, take action. Subscribe to this channel, not because you want to be entertained, but because you want to be educated. We are building a community here of people who are choosing reality over fantasy. I want you to go to the comments section right now, and I want you to make a pledge. I want you to write 3 simple words that signify the beginning of your own fire sale. I want you to write, "I choose freedom." Write it down, make it real, stare at those words, and let them be the first brick in your new foundation. Chloe started her journey today, and now it is your turn. I am Sam. Good evening. And do not forget to watch the next episode, because remember, these stories could be your past, or if you are not careful, they could be your future.